And joined now at the top of the tower by Mr. Ed Gamble. Welcome, Ed.
Thank you very much for having me.
What a bizarre. I'll just explain, if you don't know who Ed is, award-winning comedian, co-host of the Off Menu podcast, of course, judge on BBC Two's Great British Menu, Taskmaster champion and host of Taskmaster the podcast, and now host of The Traitors Uncloaked. And, of course, here it is, the author of Glutton, the multi-course life of a very greedy boy.
Yes, indeed.
Whew. Isn't it bizarre that sometimes the off-air conversations one has with a guest? Ours was kind of wonky museums.
Yes, anything with a waxwork where they've not put that much effort into the waxwork.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I love it. I was just saying, I don't think it's open anymore, but Louis Two Swords in Blackpool was my favourite.
Never heard of Louis Two Swords.
It was wonderful. They were definitely switching their heads around when a new celebrity came into the papers.
I wonder, was Louis any relation to Madame Two Swords?
I think so. I think brother. I might be wrong in saying that. I'm sure your listeners are going to be going mad at me now, but yeah, I think a relation to Madame, but also with less sort of waxwork-based skill.
Yeah, exactly. They're kind of like, oh, Louis, maybe we should try something else.
Yeah.
Chandelier. Anyway, thanks for coming in to see us, Ed. You're I don't know where to begin with your book because it just covers so many stories. But I suppose if you think there's a lot of kids off school at the moment, I think a lot of kids would relate to this book, younger people, because you talk about weight and physical image, and we live in an era now probably more than ever with phones and so on, that it really resonates, I suspect.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I would say maybe not for some younger readers, because I don't hold back on my use of language or imagery.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly. I mean, I talk a lot about when I was that age and how my body image affected me, and my relationship to food and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, it's handled in a light-heart way, but I think I'm talking about some fairly heavy, important stuff as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And can you talk us through a little bit about that? I mean, at what age do you become conscious of weight? I mean, there's a point where all that time as a kid, you don't know, you don't care because you're just a kid.
Yeah, totally.
What age do you suddenly realise, oh, hang on a second, that's the conversation I need to have?
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, I was going to say early teens, but it's probably even earlier than that. And like you say now, I mean, I don't know how anyone's a kid now with when everyone's got a phone and they've got social media and you can message people constantly when you're outside of school. I think it must be hell for a lot of people. But probably, yeah, when you're a kid at school, you notice that if you look a bit different or you have a different body shape, you notice that changes the way that people relate to you. But I mean, I'm very keen to say in the book as well, quite a lot of the time when I was bigger, in a bigger body, as I think is the term that people use now, I was happy with that most of the time because I just absolutely loved food.
Yeah.
Like, this book really is about my absolute love of food that's been there for my whole life, but about how that relationship to loving food has changed and how I then went through a period of losing weight, and now I just feel a bit more balanced and a bit more happy with it, really. Yeah.
You said bigger person or something. Is that because the word fat is now considered unfair?
No, I don't think so. I'm just using phrases that I've heard, Ryan, to be honest.
You're just,
I was a fat kid.
You said you were a fat goth teenager.
Yeah.
That's ticking a few boxes there.
Yeah.
Tell me about that version of you. What was he like?
Well, he's still here in my mind. That's how I identify as a fat goth teenager, really. That's still who I think of myself as.
Describe him to
trench
me.
coat,
yeah.
Leather trench coat, big New Rock boots with flames on, dyed black hair, occasionally eyeliner, occasionally nail varnish, listening to Slipknot, and listening to Korn and bands like that. And my music taste certainly hasn't changed, but maybe my constant binge eating has.
Yes.
And frankly, if I thought I could get away with it, I'd still wear the trench coat.
Yeah. It's changed. I mean, you
I dress a bit brighter and sort of happier now.
It's kind of like goth meets preppy.
I would say so. I've got to lean into the way my face looks, which is hugely preppy. So
it's different to the face that you had as a goth teenager.
Yeah, there's less of it. Yeah.
Can I talk to you about diabetes? Because obviously with the sweet tooth that you have, and you talk about it very frankly in the book, that you had the penchant for eating the good what I call the good stuff, the sweet tooth too. I love all that stuff. And yet the diabetes. When were you told, or how did you?
So I was diagnosed as type 1 diabetic when I was 13.
Yeah.
I was quite lucky with my diagnosis because a lot of people find out when everything's gone catastrophically wrong and they end up in hospital and You know, there's worries about comas and things like that where their blood glucose level is shot up because their pancreas isn't producing insulin. Whereas with me, I had a lot of the symptoms spotted early by my mum, because my mum used to be a nurse and was then a health visitor, so she worked in the NHS for her whole career. So we went and got the tests, and then were able to start treatment very quickly. But I mean, I'm very keen in the book, and whenever I'm speaking on anything about type 1, to say a lot of people's conception of it is that I can't eat sweet things, or I have to be very boring with my food, and I can't eat anything I would like. But that's not true. I can, but that's why I have insulin that I can inject, and that's why I manage my blood glucose levels well. It's not a sentence to never having chocolate again.
Yeah,
I do have chocolate.
You do have to. You describe it at one point. There's where if you go to a dinner party and people kind of come always kind of reverse towards you with the dessert. Going,
almost if they can't get it in my vicinity, as if meringues are airborne. It's not an issue. Sometimes I might not, because I'm looking to be more controlled, but yeah.
On the lighter side of things, I was struck by your foods not to eat on a first date. I thought that was great, because that's when the book becomes a real manual, doesn't it? For those who are having trouble and trying to figure out what to order.
There's some self-help stuff in there, sure.
This is self-help. Yeah, this is quality self-help. Do you remember what the three are, or do you want me to help you here? I mean, it's been
noodles is definitely one of them.
Noodles is in there. I mean, that's. I mean, we can't all be Lady on the Tramp, and make noodles
exactly.
Sexy, so it's tricky.
I think noodles, especially now that ramen is more popular and pho is more popular. It's pronounced pho, actually, but I sound like an idiot when I say that. Soup noodles, disaster.
Forget about it.
Yeah, you're sucking up noodles. They're flicking everywhere. The last thing you want on a first date is to be flicking some chili broth into your date's eye from a noodle hanging out your mouth like Dr. Zoidberg. Noodles definitely one. Did I say oysters as well?
You did say oysters, which I thought was quite... that's high-end alert there.
Yeah.
But yes.
Well, some people might think, oysters are the aphrodisiac, or, you look fancy if you order oysters, but you're always spinning the roulette wheel with oysters. If you get a bad one, it's not a good date.
Along came Polly.
Yeah.
I think I know where you're going with that. And it's funny, because I remember reading something about somebody saying, they said, I came from a different background to that of certain people, and one of the warnings they got was, when the salad arrives down, never put your knife into a cherry tomato.
Oh yeah, that's a good shout as well. Explosive things.
So,
but yeah, I mean, oysters very rarely come up on a first date, especially if you're like you're going on a date when you're like 15. Where are you going?
Presumptuous.
It's an easy one to avoid.
It sure is. Okay, but sage advice on that.
Yeah.
I was also taken by the observation that you make, which is that when you were getting into physical exercise, and I think an awful lot of people will appreciate this thought that you make, or this comment that you make, which is you didn't like people looking at you doing exercise.
Not at all.
You didn't. Was that because of? Well, why don't you tell me why?
I think a lot of people feel this, certainly in the gym, and I don't think it's a true thing. I don't think it's reality. But you feel like other people are looking at you and thinking you're doing this wrong, or why are you bothering doing this, or you feel certain eyes on you in the gym.
Yeah.
But then when you actually properly get into going to the gym, which I have, and doing some weights and things, you realise that all the people in there doing weights are so self-obsessed. They are not looking at anyone else apart from themselves in the mirror.
Yes.
So it's actually, going to a gym is one of the... If you want solitude, go to a busy gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the only person looking in the mirror is the person who wants to be looking at themselves in the mirror.
No one. The only time anyone will look at you or talk to you is if they feel like you're on a weights bench for too long and they want to hop on.
Go back to the cause, though, of why you didn't want people to look at you.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of... I put pressure on myself to think, if people thought I was trying to lose weight or trying to get healthier, then what if it went wrong? What if I stopped? What if I gave up? Then people would always think of me as this person who couldn't do it. Whereas... I do still maintain this. And I spoke to someone came up to me recently and said they'd read the book and they were in the process of dropping weight, and the piece of advice that really helped them was, don't start posting about it on social media all of the time, because you should be doing it for yourself rather than other people on social media.
Yes.
And I know it might keep some people accountable and stuff, but you always get to the stage where you're like, well, maybe I don't want to go for a run today, or maybe I just want to I want to eat a pizza today, and then you start going, but people on social media will think that I've given up. It's like, come on.
No.
It should be for yourself. It's not for
should
other
be
people.
for yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a great observation as well. That I think if you're in the public eye and something goes on in your life, you probably think everyone's looking at you, or looking at you funny, or is it friend or foe, or I wonder what they think. The truth of the matter is, they're thinking, can I make the next bill?
Yeah.
Is my car working?
They're getting it, and
how's my mother?
Or they're thinking, oh God, everyone's looking at me. So it's everyone's too caught up with themselves to be worried about what you're doing.
Well, we've just been having a big conversation about Planet of the Apes, which I
we really should just leave the mics up on your show. I think.
Just say to John Bon Jovi, look, John, we are talking about Caesar and the new kid in town, Noah, and who's more fanciable.
Yeah, we're talking about who's the hottest monkey in the new Planet of the Apes film.
Who's got the Riz? Monkey Riz.
Monkey Riz, and I've not seen it yet, so I can't fully give my opinions.
Well, I can tell you that the women in my life all think that Caesar is hard to beat when it comes to having that animal magnetism, which he has. You're a busy man. Tell us about the gigs. You're all over the place. I mean, not emotionally, but
no, emotionally, I'm on quite a stable plane actually.
God.
But geographically, I'm wiggling around all over the place. I'm on a stand-up tour called Hot Diggity Dog, and I'm quite deep into it now, but we've got about 4 weeks left of this run.
Congratulations.
And doing like loads of shows everywhere, doing 5 shows at the Hackney Empire in London.
Amazing.
And then I'm back doing it late September through to November as well.
This is due to extra demand.
Extra demand.
I love that. Does that feel good?
We assume. I mean, we put them on sale and then we see if the demand's there.
You're going to Ireland, aren't you?
Done that. It did. Well, did Dublin and Belfast. Yeah.
Okay.
And,
were they okay?
The best.
You like it?
I mean, Vicar Street in Dublin.
Oh, it's a lovely
I think
venue.
it's just one of the best venues for stand-up in the world.
Is it really?
It's stunning. Yeah. Because I do a lot of lucky to do amazing theatres in the UK, and I do love a theatre like an old Victorian theatre where they're stacked up and they feel like they're on top of you. But there's something about Vicar Street where it's a bit more of a club feel, but there's so much history in the walls, and the audience are very, very giving and up for it. So
love that giving audience for a stand-up comedian. That's
what you need.
That's what you need in life. You're and not to, we won't dwell on it too long, but you do write about the difference between a lager and a pint of Guinness, and And we were discussing in between the monkeys how talking about how good is the Guinness here and there is pretty boring conversations. We're not going to go there.
It's one that I've had a lot, but now I bore myself now when I'm talking about it.
So you're practicing what you preach.
But also my favourite thing now is the people who get really obsessed with Guinness and talking about it. It's normally English people going, you just got to go to Ireland. You've just simply got to have one in Dublin. It's so much better. I like telling them that there's no difference. Because that makes them really angry. And it makes Irish people angry as well.
It does, You kind of kick the hornet's nest.
Yeah.
But you've been, we mentioned the toucan, which is big, very popular. It's been around for 100 years in, I would say that, in Soho in London. And of course the movie it wasn't filmed there, but they based a lot of it Last Night in Soho.
Yeah, I was saying to you when I saw Last Night in Soho, it's the first time I realised that there was a downstairs in the toucan. I've just been drinking upstairs or outside, but there's a downstairs.
There's a whole other layer.
There's a whole other bit. It's
sweaty
fantastic.
basement. Yeah. Sweaty basement Guinness. It's a whole different brand. Let me ask you, Ed. You were a vegan for 9 months.
Yes.
How are you? How was it for you?
It was fine. I mean, look, I decided to do it. I was surprised that I managed to commit for 9 months. And then me and my wife booked a holiday to Japan. And I realised rapidly that there was no way I was going to be able to get through a holiday in Japan without eating all sorts of things. Everything.
So it was worth a punt. You were happy you did it just to see.
It's definitely changed my diet quite a lot since I stopped being vegan. I will now happily have a vegan option, and I will eat more stuff like that.
That's progressive.
But I still have
big dirty burger.
Yeah.
How's Japan? I'd love to go to Japan.
Amazing. We've got back from another trip there a couple of weeks ago.
So you went back for more.
We went back for more. It's a stunning country. Yeah.
It's on the agenda. Okay, that's for the next conversation.
Yes.
My travels with Ed. Okay, Ed Gamble. Congratulations on Glutton. It's in paperback now.
Yes.
People are going to love it. The multi-chorus life of a very greedy boy, as I say, covers a multitude and done with considerable aplomb and not a small amount of comedy, which is exactly what you do. And that's in paperback, and then the tour continues apace. There's a website, I'm sure, for that
edgamble.co.uk.
Ah, it's a beaut. It's nice and easy. Ed, lovely to meet you. Thanks for being
with
us today.
Thanks for having me.
Mind yourselves.